Hey guys, it's Graham. What's cracking? This is going to be more of a talk about writing than it is about reading, with a very specific focus on research and whether you should wing it or how much you should actually do and how hard you should adhere to real world established facts in a story. I just started the sixth Jack Reacher novel. It's called Without Fail. The premise is that the Secret Service finds Jack Reacher and hires him to do kind of a stress test on their protections of the vice president to see where they can improve things. And before I started reading this, I checked out my friend Abel Keough's reviews on Goodreads. You know what's funny is I say my friend Abel Keough, and then I look at his name, and I think I haven't actually ever heard his name pronounced. I've known this dude for years, most of it online. We've bumped into each other once or twice at writing conventions and stuff, but he's always wearing a name tag. I'm like, hey, good to see you. And then I realized, like, maybe I'm actually butchering the pronunciation of his name 15 years later. It's kind of the nature of this line of work. But he's a really cool dude, just incredible personal story. But I digress. He's read all of the Reacher books, and he grew up in the Mountain West area. He's very familiar with all of that. And I guess one of his complaints about this particular book was that Jack Reacher has to get from one place to another in Wyoming and does it in the least sensible way. Takes this route instead of that route. He says, I used to live there, I used to drive there all the time. If he was trying to get from this city to this city, he should just stay on I-25, blah, blah, blah. And somebody in the replies to Abel there said, if you didn't miss anything else that he got wrong, is it really that big of a deal? And that got me thinking, I've been impressed with the level of detail and stuff that Lee Child puts into his books, but I don't actually know the extent of the research that he does. I don't know like how detailed and how accurate this stuff is, or if he's just making stuff up that makes sense in a vacuum. I guess if he ever has Jack Reacher do some trucking and he just starts making crap up, then I'll be able to tell. But yeah, I don't actually know. And this book came out in early 2000s, maybe the mid 2000s. So I doubt that he was pulling up Google Maps to check things from point to point, or if he had to use like Encarta or MapQuest.com, whatever software was freely available at the time to plot this kind of stuff out. It's kind of sticking in my mind because right now I'm in a phase with a draft that I'm working on when I'm in between drawings or whatever. I've got my finger in a lot of pies creatively, and if I'm ever kind of exhausted on one, I'll catch my breath by shifting gears and doing another. Maybe it's editing a video or writing a manuscript or working on a drawing. In this case, I didn't really want to get started on a drawing the other night before I went to work, so I was just throwing some words down on a manuscript. I've got an outline for it, but I'm kind of just feeling it out. And the conceit of this particular scene I'm working on, it's the team of good guys. They're waiting in an industrial park in Texas City, Texas, to intercept a truck that took something from a port at a refinery, blah, blah, blah. I was pulling up Texas City, Texas on Google Maps to get road names right and figure out where I would actually do this. And you can adhere to street names and street numbers and all that stuff to an extent, but if you need a certain location to behave, we'll say, a certain way or to have certain features, sometimes you're just going to have to make something up. And I don't know, 50,000 people or whatever that live in Texas City, Texas are just going to have to be upset with me if I don't exactly have this cluster of buildings where they think it is. But for the most part, it's accurate. I got the road numbers, the state highways, and then there's probably some nondescript cluster of warehouses that could fit the description of where I'm having this particular scene take place. I think you can over adhere to reality and slow yourself down in the creating process if you're so hyper focused on having the details 100% match up to measurable fact. Jeanette Rallison wrote a book called Just One Wish that I think I did a video on it last year. The main character is a teen girl who it's like a teen girly romance slash like emotional contemporary YA thing. She's a very good writer. I've enjoyed the few books of hers that I've read. But the girl lives in Henderson, which coincidentally is where I'm from, and then has to go to Burbank, which is where my mom grew up. So I'm kind of familiar with that city. And I feel like Jeanette Rallison did an extensive amount of research on cross streets and what businesses were where. Like, the main character girl had to go hit up a Black Friday sale at a Toys R Us, and however many years ago it was that Jeanette Rallison wrote this book, there actually was a Toys R Us on Stephanie in Henderson before TRU went out of business. But you get the idea. She went to that level of detail and even got the highway numbers right, which for the most part is I-15 if you're going between Henderson and Burbank, but figuring out where studios were and what streets you would park on if you were going to go break into a Hollywood studio to try to meet an actor and stuff like that. She went the extra mile for those details. And I guess it was satisfying for her to do that. And for those few of us readers who would read it and say, oh yeah, I actually know where that Toys R Us is on Stephanie. That's where I used to bug my mom to give me a ride before I got a driver's license so I could go buy Transformers. It can be cool. It can be validating. But I kind of also agree with the commenter on Abel's review of this Jack Reacher book. It's like, well, if overall you didn't notice that he was making up a lot of different things on a lot of different subjects, but it made sense for the book, does it matter that much? And I think the answer is really just relative to the extent of your own personal tolerance for that sort of thing. Do you really care how accurate it is? Or do you care how much it makes sense in the context of the story, in the world that's been established? Or is the author just pantsing it and constantly contradicting himself throughout the series as he goes? If he is, I haven't really noticed. I've just been entertained, and I'm not seeing anything like glaring that jumps out at me and takes me out of the story. It's done really well. So in typical corporate boardroom meeting parlance, you could just throw out the trope of, it's all about finding that balance. Really, as a writer and as a reader, it's about finding what you're comfortable with. And if the writer finds enough people that don't care that the details aren't 100% accurate to real life, but that they ring true for the context of the story, then it's fine. You're good. I can have a couple of people get into a gunfight in a warehouse complex in Texas City, Texas. You know, it's a refinery town. I've worked in refinery towns. I know a thing or two. And I can add those details in and make them accurate enough to get to the real meat and potatoes of the story. I guess if you're going to make a food comparison, get the steak and the potatoes right. Nobody cares all that much about the steamed broccoli and the garnish, except for maybe the chef. But you're not there to admire the garnish and smell the broccoli. You want those taters. You want that steak. So anyway, that's what I'm working on. I might do a little bit more writing on that tonight. I need to finish a drawing. I've only got 4 or 5 drawings left that I need to render digitally for Howling Wilderness, which is my current work in progress book. That's not the book that I was writing the other night. That's a different story. I got to get the cover drawn and then a few more digital interior drawings. And then I've decided that I'm going to render some of the others just by hand, and I can make them work for what I need to get done. It's taken me longer to illustrate this book than I wanted to, purely as a result of my work schedule this whole year. I wanted to have maybe twice the number of drawings done, and while the digital drawings come out a lot crisper and cleaner, they just take me longer. And looking at the whole slate of drawings that I wanted to do, I just thought, not every single one of these has to be an elaborate digital drawing. And so I isolated the list to the most important ones that I wanted to get done in that format, and then the rest of them I can I can freehand them, do them with ink, scan them in. I've got a portable roller scanner. So they'll still look great for the interior of the book. They'll just be rendered with a different medium. But I'm not setting a hard release date for that one yet. I know that I want it out by the end of this summer, preferably early August. But once I get the art done, it'll be a lot easier to set a hard release date, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. But those are my thoughts for today. Let me know what you think about all this. Should a book be completely accurate to real life if it's in a contemporary setting, or do you mind if the author messes with things just a little bit in order to tell the story in a more exciting way? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section below. Till next time, drive safe. See you.